Okay, so let's get started, I guess.
Sure.
All right. So thanks for being with me today. You want to tell me a little about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Yeah. I'm glad to be here today. Thank you for the invitation. I am the owner and I'm a doula for Doulas of Marquette. Let me tell you a little bit about what a doula does. Okay. So when you think about a pregnancy and then birth and then into the postpartum period, you think about like doctors and nurses that are very focused on like healthy mom, healthy baby. We are all on that page too. We also are thinking about healthy bond and healthy connection. We are meeting prenatally with clients. We do pre-birth meetings and we're going over like what are their desires, what are they wanting for their birth. As a, that you're a mom, I think that that it's more than just your physical body that actually goes through pregnancy and then into birth and then into the postpartum period. You've got all these new emotions and hormones, and it's birth can be a very spiritual and even transforming thing for a woman and her partner. So we just come in and we provide education to families and emotional support and really getting at the root of what are families wanting for themselves. We very much live in a culture, coin things like mommy wars and stuff, but everyone has an opinion about how you go through your pregnancy and how you give birth or how you give birth and like this way is the right way and all of that. And I think sometimes doulas can be stereotyped as that, or even how you raise your children. And really what we're coming in is saying, like, what are you wanting? Are you okay? Like, what's happening inside of you? And women, it ultimately comes down to women and their partners and raising up like a next generation of children. And so we just love to empower people. Cool. Them find the empowerment of themselves.
I love it.
Thanks.
Okay. So what does a typical work week look like?
Oh man. Well, let's talk about last week. No. But so it can really vary. Because I'm not only the owner, so I'm doing all of that, the QuickBooks and the social media and Instagram. It's not always frequent, but I'm trying to get in the rhythm with that. But it can look like going to one or two births a week sometimes. We actually offer a model that's a little bit different. Stereotypically, like a doula is like, a solo doula, and then she might have like some random backup, and for like, I guess let's just imagine, you're not pregnant, but like, let's imagine for a second, some person is pregnant and so they've been meeting with their doula all along, and then all of a sudden they call and they're like, hey, like it's go time. And that doula is like, hey, I'm sick or something. So now they have to call in random backup doula number 7. And, that not only doesn't work for families, because the whole point is to get to know somebody throughout, but it doesn't work for a doula because she's on call all the time. Now, I did this for 4 years. I was like, hey, family, sorry, I'm going to miss like every important occasion ever. But so what I actually came up with last year when I transitioned from my previous business, which is called Birth and Joy. Well, I'll take a minute. That's really cute. Yeah. But came to this thing of Doulas of Marquette is because I wanted to have like a regional name, make it really easy for people. Doula Marquette. It's like, there you go. Yep. But is not only I transitioned that way, but I also transitioned to a team model where we actually offer 2 doulas per each family. And so the family will meet with both of them through the pre-birth meetings, and then the doulas share an on-call schedule, and it allows doulas to live life a little bit, but it also allows just for, if somebody else has to be called in, that they are going to know that person. So my work week can look a lot like scheduling, going to births, sometimes doing encapsulations, some postpartum work, and then also all of the admin work on the other side of that, balancing checkbooks and QuickBooks and calling my accountant Mary Luton and being like, hey girl, help me. What is all this crazy stuff? But it's a really big transition when you go from doing something as a hobby, you know, and I would say if there's like a mission that I've got kind of dual, is that families feel empowered in their choices and what they're wanting to do. But on the other side, I guess on the doula side of it, it would be that the role of a doula would be elevated in our community in the UP, that it wouldn't just be looked at as like a hobby to like, you know, trade somebody goat milk with, you know, or whatever, but like that, I know we've talked about this previously, like that it would be not just this thing of like, you know, racing to the bottom to try to get clients, but really elevating that role and being like, the way that we provide and care for our family, you can expect that same care for your family. So yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't one of the questions we had talked about earlier, but do you have any kind of a business background? And how did that transition to your own business? I think. Okay,
so I'm just gonna be raw and real. That's pretty much how I am. In 2000 and in winter of 2014, I got home from a very long birth, and normally, you know, after a very long birth, like you can just expect to be weepy and all the things. So I got a day and a half birth or so, and I came home and I was crying, and I was talking to my husband, and I was like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. You know, at the time, like, you know, I was basically, when I originally was certified as a doula, I was basically taught that it was my responsibility, the outcome of how people like ended up in their births, and it was a lot of pressure, and it was just not good. And so anyway, so I came home and I'm processing through everything, feeling like, what did I do wrong, you know? And I will say that's a load of crap. I'll get to the other side of that, you know. But anyway, so yeah, so all of that happened, and then I was talking to my husband. I was like, I don't know if I can get on call, because like I'm charging like a really low amount of money, and I'm trying my best, and I was just like, something else has to give. And somebody added me into a random Facebook group. I'm like, I don't even remember how I added to it, but it was a group about business and being a doula. And I was like, this is weird. Like how do, you know, those two don't go together. Like it's a work of the heart. And it's like, it is very much the work of the heart. But I also actually have 3 children that I actually have to feed and care for. They actually eat a lot. But anyway, and a husband too, you know, and as a woman, I think there's something powerful about being able to provide for your family. So I got in this group, and basically I came to find an organization. It's called Pro Doula, and I ended up being certified. Like I'm certified in encapsulation, and I'm certified also in labor doula, and I just submitted my postpartum cert. So I just radically shifted, and basically what they taught was, your role is to support families in the births that they're wanting, and it's not that one birth is better than another, one type or one, you know, it's just and really, I remember the first training I went to with Pro Doula, and the trainer looked at me, and she was reading my mail. Her name is Kristen, so I'm sure she'll listen. Hello, Kristen. But yeah, you know, she like looked at me from across the table and like said, you know, it is not your responsibility whether somebody chooses to or chooses not to use their voice. Like sometimes as doula, we might be like, hey, did you still want that? And she might totally change your mind, but it's like not my responsibility. Like, and it was like, and I was like, you know, crying and all the things for like 4 years, like, oh my gosh, yeah. But like really being like, yeah, that's right. My role is to support women and to come in with like education and information. And if they want that education information, awesome. And if they're like, no, girlfriend, I'm good, like that's their choice too.
Sure.
So it was just really powerful. And through that, I developed a lot of friendships, people that other business owners, hey girls, hey, I'm like, I love it. But yeah, they have become people that are like my like dearest friends, and people that own doula agencies throughout the United States. We just met up this summer and kind of had like a fun like business and fun hangout in Nashville. But it's just you know, I didn't with not having that business background, coming to a place of being like, okay, like a big thing that Pro Doula says is like, you are enough. And it's like, I am enough. And yes, am I in process with learning a lot of these new things? Yeah. I also want to give a really big shout out to Alex Kofsky at Accelerate UP. He has been awesome. Has like met with me like from the very beginning. He's like always giving me high fives, like, man, he's like, you're like transforming. I'm like, I know, thank you. Like you're helping. But he's really taught me, he's just practically like how to do things, and the separation of like, you know, because I have a very emotional career, but there's also the business side of it. And sometimes you have to be able to separate business and emotion and make hard decisions for your business, like who would be a good fit, you know, as far as doulas and having to let people go, or like other things that you're just like, I don't ever want to deal with any of this. Like, can I just not be the boss today? But like, he's really helped me solidify like inside of myself, like what I'm doing, what my mission is, and where we're going. So no, sorry, always a big long answer. I don't have business experience, but I also did grow up with a mom who is an entrepreneur at her very core. She like is a cosmetologist still, like years later. She's owned her own business forever in that way. She's also a realtor and owned her own business in that way, and also does like assisted living for elderly. So I grew up with a very, very strong, independent, sometimes she challenges me. I challenge her too though. But you know, mother that like literally has made me so proud and like has set such an example for me on how to love people, but also how to like, I don't know, kick butt as a woman. So
Cool.
It's good.
Yeah. All right. So first things first, I'm gonna grab a tissue.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah. I always make the people cry.
Like, some good tears. Good morning. Tears are good.
Hey, it's true.
All right. We're going. So I don't know what's going on with that. I'm just gonna keep on going.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So, what kind of you hire doulas, right? So,
Yeah.
what kind of graduates does your company typically look for in new hires? So, you know, is it some specific degree, or is it a personality? You know, what do you typically look for?
You know, the biggest thing is, as far as degrees go, you know, it's not necessarily a specific degree that we're looking for. My current team, you know, there's some early childhood education stuff, which of course goes with that. There's also like marketing. Somebody has like marketing and business, which I'm like, I love that too. Candace, help me out. But yeah, so it's like this thing of what I'm looking for is commitment. I'm looking for somebody who I've seen, whether they finished a degree, whether it be 4-year, 2-year, whatever. You don't have to have a degree to be a doula, but I'm looking for somebody who is consistent, who has finished things, and also who is super compassionate and willing to sometimes, like, you know, in the next few months we have like quite a few births coming up. So, you know, with having like, you know, thank God it's not just me anymore, but you know, with having a few other doulas, there is sometimes where, you know, we're having to take on a little bit more, or maybe we're having to adjust like our plans a little bit. Does it happen often? No. But having a team that's willing to be flexible and bringing that kindness. Somebody, in order to become a doula with Doulas of Marquette, they have to go through Pro Doulas certifying. That's the organization. They have to be pre-certified, and they'll work towards their certification. But after the training with that, you know, they're set to go. Do I prefer that somebody has a college degree? I mean, that would be nice, because to me that shows like a start and a finish of something. But there's also other examples in life where people can do that. Personally, my major here at NMU was, you know, electronic journalism, and then sociology was my minor. With journalism, I felt like I think of a couple classes that I had. I had a class with Dwight Brady, and that really taught me a lot about my voice and about how it matters and like what I have to say. And I remember writing a big paper, and he was trying to convince me to like, you need to set it to like New York, like you need to send it to like, some magazine. I was like, I don't think so. Like I was really nervous, but like just people that believed in you. And I think about the late Louise Burgo and how she like just this, like she was just like had the sheer strength of a woman and was just like up there and was like totally herself. Like she would just jump into the middle of the class and she'd be like just kind of dancing, doing some African dance or something because she loved Africa. But anyway, she was just herself. And then I think of the late Ira Hutchison, and he's probably like in my top 5 favorite men on this planet, and somebody that literally taught me so much about how we treat women and their partners and their families and how it matters, like on a, even like, looking at society, how it matters. I remember being in his class and taking marriage and the family and being radically just like it was almost like that moment where it was like I was becoming a doula, but I didn't even know what a doula was. I didn't know what a doula was until I actually, after I had my first child, and like sitting in his classroom and like him just talking about how just the society, like how marriage is impacted by society, how like all the things, and just realizing that like I think that we can do this better. And it's not to say that, like, oh, marriage is the way for everybody, 'cause it's not, but it's just like figuring out how to support one another and how to break systems, or not break systems, how to, excuse me, not break systems, some systems problem.
Maybe.
Well, I won't get into all that, but, like how to like help heal systems and how it really does happen with individuals and coming together in that way. He taught me, like there's the whole big thing going around right now, like Brené Brown and Glennon Doyle Melton, and I'm all like, yeah, girl crushes, like love them. But like vulnerability for me in college was sitting in Ira Hutchison's office writing this crazy paper about, like, it looked at my grandma's life when she was 22, my mom's life, and my own life. And I mean, when you start digging around in your family stuff, you start, it's fun, but not really. Yeah. Anyway, but like you're learning all these things, and in like vulnerability was like handing this paper to this man and having him like sit there and read it, like 40 pages, like page by page, because like opera music going, and like he's like, so this, and like we're talking about, and I'm like crying in his office and just talking to him and like realizing that like all of the family stuff that we have, like a lot of it, I mean, yes, stuff happens. I'm not saying doulas can save the world, that would be awesome. Communicate. But a lot of it, like the impact was a lack of support for families from the very beginning. I mean, my grandma had her first baby when she was 15. I know, way back in the day. But like, and my mom too, she had a pregnancy when she was younger, and and myself too. And it's like all of these things that like people need support, whether they're like 17 or whether they're 37 or pulling a Duggar and like you're 48 or something.
Anywhere in between. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting that, do you feel like that moment when you took that marriage and family class at Northern, that was kind of, you said that was when you started to think about being a doula, even though you didn't know what a doula was?
Yeah, I think that my experience here at Northern for me was huge. I mean, I'll be real, I moved up here to Northern from the Ann Arbor area because my ex-boyfriend went to tech, and within the semester that was done. It was like that, and it was like a really, times always hard, but it was actually a really big blessing. But I ended up meeting my husband Phil here, and we've been married for just over 10 years together, for 11 years. We both got quick. We have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and I met him here, and we lived on Center Street over by the President, and it was such a, I don't know, like it was really cool to be able to not only meet my husband here, but to meet some of my greatest friends here. To be able to know your professors, not just be like a number. Like I think the biggest class that I was in maybe had like, I don't know, maybe like 45 kids or something. And it was like one of the lecture halls for psychology, and with Ellen Beauchamp. And anyway, for me, it was a really big turning point coming up here being away from home. Like, you know, I mean, I was used to, you know, the city life. I'm from around Ann Arbor, and like, you know, we get up here, but it was just like, it was so beautiful. And it was probably the place that I least expected to end up, in the UP. I had never even been to the UP really, even as a kid. But when I came up here, I just knew that it was going to be a place of, you know, great healing for me, great comfort for me, and great just meeting people and education. And I think just being able to point out those three professors that like believed in me in like individual times where it's like it made such a difference. Like, you're not going to necessarily get that at a huge university. You know, I like people like knew me by name. Like, you had friends. I never lived in the dorms. I was old enough. I was a super senior, whatever they call it these days. But yeah, so I got to live in like apartments right away. But meeting people and all the like student activities, like there's different groups. I just felt like it was really encouraging, and I felt like even though my path didn't end up being electronic journalism or sociology per se, yeah, all of it radically changed my life. I mean, when I think of like being myself, like I do think of Louise Bourgeau, because sometimes I was like, I don't even know what to do with you. Like, I mean, like we're just like cracking up, but I'm like, she's awesome. And like, when I think of somebody who's like a family man, but also like doing what he loves, I think of Dwight Brady. When I think of somebody who like, I like, you know, wept when I found out that he passed away, I think of Ira Hutchison and how he gave me that freedom to be myself. And I think, I mean, and if it wasn't for NMU, all of those things wouldn't have been there. I mean, it's like Ira became almost like my counselor for my first year of marriage. Thank God. Anyway, not that marriage is awful, y'all. It's good. It's hard work. It's work. It is work. It is work.
But it's fun.
But it's fun.
My husband.
Me too. Hey, Phil.
All right. Okay, so you went into electronic journalism.
Yeah.
What made you decide to go into that?
Well, I was always interested in telling the truth. I always wanted to tell the truth. And no matter where you fall on the scale, I think that there's definitely, the news is interesting, not always the most truthful, and sometimes focusing on things that do not matter. And that sometimes, like, I think for me, sociology and electronic journalism was kind of birthed together naturally, because I'm very much like social justice is just really heavy on my heart, like how people are treated and how groups of people, and it really matters to me. And you know, and I'm, you know, not being so much, I mean, being like, you know, a female, I guess I can relate that way. You know, being a female, like, you know, it's like trying to look at the system in a whole and being like, I don't like the, you know, the chains and everything they're put on women. So looking at that and realizing, okay, like you got this, yeah, as a society, like, you know, socially, what's going on here? But then also in journalism, being able to, you know, for me, I think I was just like, I'm gonna like change the world, like, but like, you know, wanting to like write the truth, wanting to write perspectives from people, like almost like probably like maybe like in a journalism, kind of like a storytelling type way. Like I like to do that, not just report the news, but do stories that like of impact of human interaction and human, just humanity. I love to be able to tell the story of that in that way. So I was really drawn to electronic journalism. I also love, you know, like editing, getting in there and doing editing and stuff like that. It sometimes is just a way that relaxes me. Like even in my work now, like with offering placenta encapsulation, which people are like, oh, what is that? It's like, okay, like potential benefits. There are potential benefits, but anyway, in that way, like it becomes kind of like a rhythm. It can become something that's like you're just naturally doing, and it just naturally relaxes me. And I found that a lot with a lot of editing and other things, you know, late nights. And but for me, journalism and electronic journalism was always about like just bringing out the truth. And it's interesting because, I mean, if you try to like, bring out the truth sometimes, like I came to realize that sometimes with, different media outlets and stuff, they are going to want you to present with what they want to present and everything like that. And I'm not getting down on, because I mean, I've got an interview at TV6 actually here in an hour. So, it's awesome, but just, I love that, like Alyssa Barker up there at TV6, she's like bringing like heart stories and stuff to it. And I think that's absolutely amazing in that way. So that was what drew me, was just to be able to tell all the people all the things. Just do it in a different way now, right?
You are. I can absolutely see the connection.
Yeah.
Okay. And we kind of talked about some obligations that your work puts on you outside of ordinary work hours. So there really isn't like a 9 to 5 as a doula.
No. It's a whenever. I mean, it's like when we share call, we switch off at midnight. So it might be a 11:59 phone call PM, it's like 1 minute, but 11:59 to like a day or day and a half later. I'm very thankful. My husband, I could not do this without him. He is extremely supportive. Like, yeah, there are times I get home and he's like, woo, like have some kids, and I'm like, sure, but like he's very supportive. He's always been. He's actually the reason why I ended up becoming a doula. After we had our daughter, in my birth, there's a nurse, and she was, it was like a slower night on the floor, and she was just very supportive, and her name's Jess, and MGH, and yeah, and she was just very supportive, and it was like the things she was saying to me, and like, I was like, okay, she was really like, almost like a nurse doula type, I don't know, it was just awesome. And after I got done with my birth, like, I was like, I want to do what she did for me. Like, she acknowledged, she recognized my feelings, like she just affirmed me, helped my partner, like all the things, but was like not like invasive, you know what I mean? Like, I think sometimes people worry about with doulas, like, are they going to take the place of my partner? And it's like, no way. Like, we ask partners, like, do you see yourself as, the coach, a teammate, or a witness? And none of those are wrong. I mean, they're like, sometimes men get like the Ray Romano type thing, it's like, oh, but like, no, like for us, we're like, hey, you get to be whatever you want, and we will fill in whatever way we need to. So, so with that, like, my husband actually ended up buying me, I was telling him, I was like, I want to do this, and I looked it up, it's like not a midwife, and doula came up, and I talked to him about it, and it was very vulnerable, because the thing is like, it's almost like self-doubt, like, this thing of me being like, oh, that would be so cool, and then, self-doubt creeps in, and oh, who would want you at your birth? Like, that's so personal, and like, ew, like, you're you, and I'm like, okay, and now I'm just like, move along, I already knew you were going to show up, but at the time, like, it was very vulnerable to even bring it up with my husband, and he ended up buying me doula books for Christmas in 2009, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, thank you, and then I'm like, can we take them back? And he was like, what? And I'm like, and he's like, okay, I know this really matters to you, like, and then he was like, so maybe just take some time to think on it, whatever, and I started reading, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with how women's bodies work, and just the whole, the anatomy side of it, and like learning all about that, learning about comfort measures, and supporting women, supporting their partners, new babies, and then also like, siblings. It's a big transition for siblings too. We've done it twice. We have 3 kids, so it's like, that's a big deal. But, my husband, he's believed in me from day one. When I took my first training, him and my daughter, I remember them walking up to pick me up and like handed me like a card, and it was like, we're so proud of you, mama. And I'm like, I'm so proud right now. But like, he's been in my corner since day one. So cool. Yeah.
All right. So let's see. I definitely feel like you covered what you find most rewarding about your work, which is really great. I think that comes out no matter when you talk about it. Yeah. So what do you wish you had known about before you graduated? Oh, thinking back to college.
Yeah. I don't know. I could go back to college this year. It's almost 10 years ago now. Wow.
I know, right?
Oh, how that happened. What would I say to myself? Jeez. That's a really good question. I mean, of course, like my first answer would be like, get a business degree. Like, please, for the love of God, take a finance class or two. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say the biggest thing, I mean, of course, I'd love to take a business degree, have a business degree or take business classes, but I would say, what I would say to myself is that you don't have to feel locked in, that like you can get a degree, because everyone, from the time that, and this is not my own, I'm trying to think of where there's a TED talk on being a multi-potentialite. I think I might have sent you it. Yep. But it's like where somebody's like, oh, I want to do this. And now they're like, I want to do that. And like society is like, wait, no, you have to figure out like security. You can figure out one thing that you want to do for the rest of your life. Or, and she talks about how oftentimes we ask children, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, and they're like, I want to be a policeman. And you're like, great. And so then you start like this big track of like, how is this person going to be a policeman and whatever. But versus like asking somebody like, what problem do you want to solve? And so that's what I would say. That's what I would ask myself if I was in college, is like, what problem do you want to solve? And sometimes you don't know. And like for me, I didn't know that like, support really does matter in the form of a doula until after I had my first daughter, and being like, oh man, that support would have been nice throughout my pregnancy and after and all the things. But it's also never too late. I mean, yeah, like you can come back and get another degree. I mean, so many people have asked me, are you going to become a nurse and stuff? And I'm like, not right now. I mean, those like nurses work so hard. Like every day they're working like, 12, sometimes 16 hours a day. And, we have one of the greatest joys that I have as a doula is not only, supporting women and families and supporting my own family, but we actually have great relationships to be trusted by care providers and doctors and nurses in our community. I mean, I'll never forget the day that a local doctor had said that they were going to put us on the website, and it was like, I was like, awesome. I was like crying, and my husband's like, why are you crying? And I'm like, this is like, but like, it's a big deal, because not just because of this thing, like, oh, this, oh, like, it's not about that, like, oh, we're on a doctor's website. It's a thing of like to be trusted in a way where somebody says, well, you know what, this team of doulas would be awesome to have at your birth. Like, it's a really huge honor. And so with students, like I would say, like, if you like looking deep within yourself, asking what problems you want to solve, and if you have something that you want to do, like, do it, because the world needs the most true version of yourself. Like, that's what they need. Like, the world doesn't need somebody who's like, I'm going to work 9 to 5, like in a box shop. If you love that, rock that thing. But if you don't, like, it's like, find people that, can help you. Like, I knew somebody once, and they were basically explaining to me that they had really wanted to be like a doctor, really wanted to be a family doctor, but like never felt like they were smart enough or all of these things, and basically just shot themselves in the foot with it, because they're just like, I can't do this. But it's like, I've been saying, like, hey, well, what about this? Like, this is still stirring in you. Get the support you need to do what you really want to do, because I'm telling you, I mean, 10 years out of college, it goes by quick. And you don't want to waste away your life doing something that you don't love. My husband and I are both very fortunate that we both get to do what we love. And so that's what I would say.
That's really great advice. Okay. Anything else that you want to talk about that we haven't talked about yet?
Oh man, I'm trying to think. No, I mean, I would just say, the other day, it was funny, I was at an event the other day, the Women Wine Wellness event, and middle-aged women were coming up to me and saying, oh, where were you like 10 years ago? Where were you like whatever? And I just kept saying to them, like, just for them to spread the word. Like, if somebody like myself, like we're done having children now. We've had 3 kids, like we're good. Cut that off this summer. good. But yeah, so if you have been through birth and into, or even pregnancy, birth, and then into the postpartum period, like recognizing that, okay, women and families need support, like just to spread the word, because it's like a lot less awkward for someone else to like, hey, I see you're pregnant. It's like nobody likes a creepy doula, seriously. but you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's like recognizing that, and I think also really understanding that when somebody is looking for doula, some of the considerations to think of is, you know, does this person, you know, work in that team model, and do they have good relationship with the provider that you've chosen? You know, are they, you know, if you're saying, oh, I've got high blood pressure, are they saying, oh, well, go take X, Y, and Z, versus like, oh, that, you know, that could be something serious. You know, you might want to, you know, or definitely contact your care provider. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, you know, I think that it's really important not only for doulas to recognize that they are part of a team and to stay in their role in the birth, but also for a woman to not feel tension, you know, in her birth, and to feel like everybody's working together and everybody's got their role. I think it's really important, no matter how you're giving birth or what choices you're making, to have somebody in your corner. I often joke sometimes, I'm like, I need a life doula. Like, seriously, like, I'm just like, oh, you can do it. Like, whatever. You want to do that? Do it. Like, maybe I should start that, but on the side, you know, something else. In my free time, yeah. But yeah, I would just say, a professor once said to me, and it's like stuck with me, and it's gotten me through, like, even today when I was prepping for this interview, there's a quote that he said, and it's, you are important and you have something to say. And if, like, women, like, in general, and their partners and children were just like treated that way, and like came to believe that inside of themselves, most are, because let's be real, we're always our worst enemy. It's like, oh yeah, but really that they are important. It's like, and have something to say. And I just hope that people grab a hold of that, whether they're pregnant, giving birth, the postpartum, just in life in general.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. I think this is really great. Hopefully, we went a little bit longer than I had thought, so hopefully you're not late for your next interview.
I don't think I am. No. Okay. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Go Wildcats.
Woo-hoo.